research layers. Once we get started, you kind of have some facets, you've made some notes, you have some ideas about a topic, you want to start in a little bit on your research. And there's different layers of research. Internet is at the top, periodicals, books, and reference materials. So your reference materials are going to be your foundation, or your starting point. These are going to be overviews, quick references, facts, data tables, a good place to start. You want to go through, start with your reference materials, find out an overview of your topic. Maybe you don't know a lot about it. Get some facts. Sometimes reference materials are good to come back to at the end. Once you've done a little more research in some of the other areas, come back around and get some more data on that, or something to support something else you found. Like, oh, well, I found information that says this, let me go back over to a reference book. These are going to be things like encyclopedias, almanacs, handbooks, dictionaries, and most people are familiar with encyclopedias and dictionaries. Most people have used those in school throughout the years. And that's great, but when we're talking about reference materials, we're also really talking about specialized encyclopedias and specialized dictionaries. So, for example, a medical dictionary, not just a general dictionary, but a medical dictionary, or an encyclopedia of social change. There are a lot of focus, encyclopedia of sociology, encyclopedia of science and technology. So these are going to be more focused encyclopedias and dictionaries. You're not going to just go to World Book or something. We're talking about more focused things. So these are great reference materials to get you going. After you find some reference materials, maybe get some pertinent information, some good starting points. Then you're going to go up to books. These are going to be the foundation of your research. This is where you're going to start building. These are excellent for background and summary. Even if a book is brand new, published this year, it still takes some time to get that information published. Just because it has the most recent copyright doesn't mean it was just printed last week. So it takes a little bit of time to do the research, to compile all that, get it edited, etc., 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 and get it into print and get it out there. So these are great to give you, at the time they were published, the most recent information, but also usually a book is going to have a lot of background on a topic. They have a lot more room, they have a lot more pages in a book to be able to tell you information, give you some more history of something, how things started, give you some summary of what other research has been done, etc. So this is a really good place to start culling through. And using a book for your research doesn't necessarily mean you found a book on your topic and you sat down and read it from cover to cover. A lot of times when you're doing research, you're going to find the chapter that's perfect for what you want, or a couple of chapters or some sections. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to read it from front to back. You could. If it all pertains to your topic, you certainly could end up doing that, but that's not necessarily how that's going to work. So don't be afraid to use a book thinking, wow, that's a lot of pages, I'm not going to read all that. You don't necessarily have to read all of it. So got some reference book materials, you got some books, then you're going to look for periodicals. That's your recent and updated research. Periodicals, anything that's published periodically. So that would be magazines, journals, newspapers, all your regular publications. Even if it's only published 3 times a year, but it's on a regular schedule, that's a periodical. So whether it's a daily newspaper or a weekly like Time magazine or a quarterly like Psychological Reports, those are all periodicals. So that's going to be your updated research because they come out quicker, they can publish articles much faster, so they're going to have the newer stuff. It's going to explore the current literature. What are people doing now? A lot of times somebody does some research, they are going to get that published in a journal, and then they're going to write a book about it. So you may see the same type of research sifting through the different types of layers of research. Maybe they got an article published, and then they end up turning that into a book in a couple of years, and then maybe someday, if it's really important research, it ends up in a reference book. So these things kind of filter through. And so periodicals are going to be your current literature, things that are getting things that are happening in the field now. And then way at the top of that top level is the internet. Now, I know most people, when they start researching, they just hop right on Google and get going. That can have its uses, but it's really not necessarily always the best way to go. This is going to be, you want to use the internet for your cutting edge and new information. Stuff that's new. That's important to remember. Use this primarily for information that's not yet available in print sources. So if something's, you're finding it on the internet, but it's 3 years old, well, I would go look for an article about that. 3 years, could be a book out there about it now. You really want to use internet sources for things that are really cutting edge, things that are just happening, that are recent. And some of that has to do with authority, and we'll talk more about that when we're talking about evaluating sources. But when you something new or some research is coming out and somebody just publishes it on the internet, that's great. But then you want to look for that reliability, and if it's really valuable, valid information, it's going to get picked up, or that person who maybe put it out there right away, they're going to write an article about it, and they're going to start publishing it in other ways with more detail. So you want to use the internet mostly for kind of new stuff. So where do we find all these sources? Reference items, books, periodicals, internet sources. Where are they all? Well, that's what this class is all about. This is what we're going to talk about. Reference items. We have them in the library. You can find them in the library catalog. You can browse the shelves. So you can come into the library, you can either look online in the library's catalog and find reference items, or you can come into the library and browse the shelves. Also, we have some reference materials online, and we'll talk about those a little bit coming up as well. But we have some reference books that are available online, so you don't have to come into the library. Books. What books does the GHC library own? You're going to find these in our library catalog. So that's where you're going to look for those. Periodicals. We're going to look in online indexes. Academic Search Premier, ProQuest, SIRS, Science Direct. These are the kinds of things we're going to look for. We're going to look for periodicals in those online sources. You can also come into the library and browse our shelves, but the primary way you're going to find those is looking in online indexes. And internet sources. We're going to talk about how to get those. Most people are, again, familiar with a lot of these things, but Google, Yahoo, MSN, Bing, different search tools, these are the kinds of things. This is how you get to those internet sources. They're out there, but how do you find them? You need a search tool, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. So this is sort of a roadmap to how this quarter is going to go. That's a map to the rest of our quarter, and we're going to talk about that. And we're going to look at these different types of sources throughout the quarter, how to find them, how to use them, what they're good for, and hopefully you'll get enough skills and practice with the GHC resources that you can transfer those skills to other library systems as well.